All right. Let me see if it's recording. Yes, it is. So in today's topic, we're looking at the seventh part of the course outline, which talks about multivibrators. That's your SR ledge, the gated SR ledge, the D ledge, the JK flip flop, and we have asynchronous flip flop inputs. So I'm going to go really fast because I finished recording a 30-minute lecture and there was no audio, which sucks. So let's get on with it. Right. So why do we need feedback? When you work with the normal gates that we've been studying, that is your NOR gates, your AND gates, your OR gates. Those gates, once an input changes, the output changes instantly. They have no way to store information. The job of these gates that we're studying here is for them to act as memory units. And then we give them a name. We call them the latches. We call them latches or flip-flops, right? So we make use of a mechanism called feedback. Feedback is when one of your inputs, or you take your inputs, it's when your inputs come back as a loop and they become, when your outputs come back and become an input, right? You'll see in the diagrams very soon. That is the logic. That is the logic with feedback. As you can see in this first line, we say we're just routing the output of a certain gate back to its input, right? That's what creates memory. Right, so I'll give you the correct diagram for a feedback loop mechanism. Let's start with the first basic. Excuse me. Let's start with the first basic ledge, which is what you call the SR ledge. The SR ledge it makes use of NOR gates. Two NOR gates are coupled together, right? They are cross-coupled, and then you can see from this Boolean statement, I think you can draw and come up with a NOR gate from that. But anyway, there's a diagram for that. You'll see from the diagram. The SR part of it stands for set reset. The goal of set is to make our output Q to be 1. The goal of R is to make our output Q to be low, to be 0, right? So this is the diagram of that. You have your S and R. These two NOR gates, they're cross-coupled. The input of one NOR gate goes into the output of one NOR gate becomes an input of the other NOR gate, right? So let's say your Q was 0. Remember we said the goal of set is to make the output Q to be 1. If let's say your Q is 0, we want to make it 1. To make this Q to be 1, you set, remember we said if the set is high, if S set is equals to high, the R make it 0. If the set is high, then it will make Q to be 1. How does that work? Okay, so if you come like this, they cannot minimize this. That's 0 from Q here. It's gonna come like this, and gets into this NOR gate, and the input is gonna be 0. And we said our S is what? 1. So this becomes 1. So 1, NOR, 0. What does that give us? If you look at the NOR gate, the NOR gate is just an inversion of an OR gate. In an OR gate, if you put 1 or 0, your output is 1. Then you invert that, you get a 0. So that means our Q naught is going to be what? 0. When our Q naught is 0, then this 0 is going to move. It's going to move here, and come in and enter here. So when this 0 comes and enters here, remember our R is already 0. Now in a NOR gate, or let's say in an OR gate, if you have 0 or 0, the output is 0. And then if you invert that, you get a 1. Then the output is 1 here. So finally, we have successfully made our what? Our Q to be 1. And I hope you understood how that was done. Right? Because you will need to be able to explain maybe this truth table. Let's say if a question comes and it has 10 marks, and I say explain the operation of an SR latch. So how do you get those 10 marks? The first 5 marks, or rather the easiest part of the question is drawing the diagram. Right? The easiest part of the question is drawing the diagram. Get your free marks by drawing just this simple diagram of two NOR gates. Then the truth table, right? In fact, I think a question like that should carry 15 marks because you'd be like 5 marks diagram, 5 marks the truth table. Then you explain the different operations of an SR latch. You have 4 of them. You have the hold, which is called the memory. There's the memory. You have the reset, the set, and then you have the invalid. So that is how you'd explain a question that wants you to explain the operation of an SR latch. Then we have the gated SR latch, right? Let me see something. Okay. So with the gated SR latch, what we are doing basically in this one, right, is the controls of these, right? Like if you look at the diagram of the SR latch, you have what you call the enable, right? This allows you to control when the inputs of the S and R are going to be passed on to the SR latch. Now the main SR latch is this one, right? Then this part behind it, this part which you're looking at, this part here, let me use the yellow one. This part here, that's the part that's going to control when you want those inputs to be passed on to the SR latch, right? This part which you're looking at, this one here, this is the one that acts as a gate, which I called it the gated. If the gate is closed, right, in the sense that enable is set to 0, the inputs R and S, they cannot pass through them. When the gate is closed, your house gate is closed, you cannot get in the house. How do you open the gate? Set this enable to 1. Now when you set this enable to 1, then the inputs S and R are able to pass through and go to the main SR latch which you're looking at here. Right, they're now able to pass and go into our SR latch, right? So we're just basically making use of the enable, right, to determine when the states change, right? And this was the diagram of it. So we also need to know how this truth table operates, right? You need to know when the enable is off or when it's on, and what you get as your output with the different states of S and R, also with enable. Now we have what you call the D latch. The purpose of the D latch is to solve that issue of the invalid state where you have S and R being the same, like both of them being 1. We don't want that because that gives us an invalid state, right? So we have what you call the D latch, the data latch. The data latch is just you adding an inverter to the inputs. Now you can see we have our SR latch, our basic SR latch here, and then we have our little gate here. Then we have a new addition here. We have a new addition here, which is a NOT gate. What is this NOT gate ensuring? What is it doing? if your D latch is 1, right? If your D latch is 1 or your data latch is 1, then whatever goes up here to our NOT gate is going to be inverted, which implies that you can never have two inputs which are the same, because one of them is already being inverted. Ne? If you put in one a D, we're going to have, let's assume this is, let me use red. Okay, let's assume this is the R, the reset, and this is the set, right? If you put in 1 in your D latch, your set is going to be 1, but that one, if it comes here to the reset, it's going to be inverted to a 0, right? There is no way you can have two ones at the same time because of that. So that's the job of the D latch. It tackles that issue of having an invalid state. Then we have the JK flip-flop, right? So the JK flip-flop is an edge triggered latch. It only changes state on transition of the clock signal. So you see the clock, it has highs, a series of highs and lows, right? It's like high, low, high, low, high, low. It's like timed. Ne? And then the state of the clock determines what or how this JK flip-flop behaves, right? So you need to be able to explain that, how it works, right? So when the clock is high, the master is enabled. And then it looks at the current output Q. If Q is 0, the J path is opened, which tells the master to set to 1. Okay? And if the Q is 1, then the K path will be opened. And then it tells the master to reset to 0. So the master loads the inverse of the current state. Do you get that? So the master in what? It makes the inverse of the current state. But now when the clock is low, excuse me, when the clock is low, it disables the master and enables the slave. The slave transfers the inverted values from the master to the final output Q. And then this mechanism just ensures that the output toggles exactly once per clock cycle. And then it makes it ideal for, clock counters and all. And this is the diagram, right? And this is the explanation which I just gave you of how this operates. Then we have what you call asynchronous inputs. Well, what we just explained above here, having the J, the K, the SR latch, the D, all of those, they're affected by the clock. They wait for the clock before they perform their operations. So they're called synchronous inputs, right? Then we have what you call asynchronous inputs, which are your preset and clear. These ones, they don't wait for the clock, right? They override the clock, they bypass it, and they're directly wired to the memory cells, and they can force the output state immediately, regardless of what the clock is saying, right? So you can go read further on that one, on how this truth table works. The basic idea is to be able to explain these operations using the truth tables, the different cycles, like the set, reset, the hold, right? The memory states of the Qs, the Q previous, the Q not, This is the D latch, the logged, the transparent states. You need to be able to explain all of that and to be able to draw the diagrams, right? That is what will score you marks if you made a question on this.